We got an important Baltimore Ravens injury update on Wednesday. We talk about that. Roquan Smith getting called out by an anonymous NFL assistant and so much more coming up on Locked On Ravens.
You are Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in to another edition of Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Oestreicher of Ravens Wire, here with you on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks so much for being here on this Thursday edition of the show, making Locked On Ravens a part of your day and your first listen each and every single day. We're free and available for you on all podcasting platforms, including in video form on YouTube, where you can like and subscribe to the channel, and in audio form where you can follow along and subscribe wherever you get your podcast. We're 5 days a week here on Locked On Ravens, so Monday through Friday, bringing you that daily Ravens coverage at 6 a.m. Eastern time. Plus, we also now have the Ravens Squad show that is live with myself, Sam Njoku, and Kadri Ismail, who's a former Ravens receiver and Super Bowl champion. That's 7:30 p.m. Eastern time on those Mondays and Thursdays. So a lot of Ravens content over here on the show, and thank you out there to all the everydayers, the first-time listeners, and if you're somewhere in the middle, thank you as well. Today's episode of Locked On Ravens is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Man, I'm losing track of my days. We're in that peak off season here where we're so close to training camp officially getting underway. The rookies reported on Tuesday. The vets will report in just a couple of days on this upcoming Tuesday. So a lot of excitement in the air, and then we'll get into practices, battles, who's winning spots here and there, performers, guys who aren't, just so many different storylines there. So we have a jam-packed episode today, even though it's still the high time of the offseason. We still have a lot of content for you today on Locked On Ravens. In the final part of the show, we're going to dive into the official top 100 players list from the hosts over here on the Locked On Podcast Network, the NFL hosts. So I was included in this. So we'll go through those rankings. Some Ravens made the list, obviously. The Ravens have a lot of talented players, so we'll go through that and talk about where these guys are ranked relative to their peers. In the second part of the show, Roquan Smith, he was called out by an anonymous NFL executive, and it just grinds my gears when these guys stay anonymous. We'll get to that in the second part of the show. But in the first part of the show, I want to talk about injury updates. We got an injury update on Wednesday for the Ravens as rookie third-round pick Emory Jones Jr., offensive lineman out of LSU, he was placed on the NFI list, the non-football injury list. He was one of two rookies. A 49ers rookie was also placed on the list. So Emory Jones is on the NFI list. He can be activated at any time from the NFI list, but obviously he's not going to be practicing while he's on that list. And it's not necessarily a shock because John Harbaugh made it clear that he was working through a labrum injury. And as time went on, Harbaugh also made it clear that he probably wasn't going to be ready for the start of training camp. That was the timeline given for Emory Jones is, it's probably not going to happen for at least the start of training camp. And so it's not a shock to me that it happened. It is disappointing because Emory Jones, I liked him coming out of LSU. I don't know even if he was healthy and ready to go for training camp or if he had been healthy because he hasn't practiced at all. This has been something, that's why I stand on file list. He's been working through this. So we haven't had a chance to hear about him or see him at all during spring workouts, OTAs, minicamp. He was not on the field for any of that. So it's disappointing. I know that the freak out's already beginning in the Ravens fan base because Darius Washington goes down for the season. You know, we heard about the injuries to Bo Brady and Chidobe Awuzie during spring workouts, and they were fine, by the way. They got back on the field. But again, it's just like, man, don't start with this yet. Don't start with this yet. And, we haven't even gotten to the training camp practices, and we're already here with the rookie. And, it doesn't make it any easier. But I think the main thing here is that I don't believe the Ravens had a big plan for Emory Jones this season. I know that some people were maybe hoping he could compete for that open left guard job. And look, maybe he does come back and is able to get on the field at the beginning of August, let's say, after training camp has been going for about a week or so, 2 weeks, and he's able to really make a name for himself in preseason, and he's able to beat out guys. It's possible I don't think that's what is going to happen. So I think to me, Voorhees wins that job, and it's okay for me if Emory Jones doesn't contribute, because I think the Ravens, when they didn't pick an offensive lineman in the first 2 rounds, it was obvious they were probably going to take an offensive lineman in the 3rd round. It would have been kind of crazy if they didn't, if we're being honest. And so Jones was one of the guys on my short list that I was okay with them taking. I think he's a high upside player. He has experience. I think Baltimore wants to try him out at both guard and tackle, see if he can develop maybe into a swing guy for them. But I think a forgotten signing for the Ravens, if I talk about, DeAndre Hopkins, this forgotten guy. I literally don't. I had to remember it, if I'm being honest. The Ravens, they signed Joe Noteboom, longtime tackle offensive lineman for the Rams. He, to me, is their Josh Jones replacement, that like sixth guy for them, or maybe 7th, if you want to. I think McCary was their super 6th guy before he started. But I think Noteboom is going to be that swing tackle, the extra guy you put on the line. I think Ben Cleveland will also play a role in that, kind of like what we saw him do a little bit last season. They put Ben Cleveland on the end of that line in those jumbo sets. But Emory Jones, him being injured, doesn't have this like profound impact on this season. It's tough from a perspective of him getting experience on the practice field with his teammates, with his coaches, getting better. And I don't know how long a labrum issue here would take for him to get through it. Like, I don't know if it's just going to be like he gets placed on IR eventually, or he never gets moved off of the NFL. Like, I don't know what this looks like for him. We don't really know what the actual injury was. If I'm not, I looked for it. I couldn't really find like an exact diagnosis, but it kind of popped up, and I don't think there was anything that came out pre-draft about it. I think, he came out of the draft and it was okay. Then, he showed up to rookie minicamp and, he has an injury. He's not going to be participating. And so I don't know for Emory Jones what this year looks like for him, but I can kind of give a guess in that the Ravens have already kind of penciled in Andrew Voorhees and Daniel Falele to win those 2 jobs. I mean, it's pretty obvious the Ravens trust Falele at right guard. I still have some reservations about that, but I think that's a conversation for a different day. But they're equipped to handle some injuries on the offensive line. Now, if they lose Tyler Linderbaum, that's a different conversation. And obviously Roger Rosengarten and Ronnie Stanley, you're probably in some hot water if you lose either of those guys as well. But at the guard position with Falele and guys like Voorhees and Ben Cleveland coming back, you have other options. I mean, maybe if a guy like Emory Jones can't come off of the NFI and he's not able to play, that opens the door for a player like Garrett Dellinger, who right now I don't have a spot for him. The Ravens 7th rounder, I don't have a spot for him on their roster right now. On their roster, I don't have a spot. So we'll see what ends up happening. But I think the big concern, I think the panic has come because, oh man, already an injury. But this injury is not a new injury. It's an injury update. It's an update about a previous situation, which we all kind of knew it was coming. So it is a big update in terms of like, the timeline is set. It's nothing new for people here for Emory Jones, but he's someone that, again, it's not a huge loss for the team in the now because I think that they already have their guys, but you just don't want to see injuries happen. And it's always a tough situation for a rookie who's trying to come in and prove himself. We have Mark Clayton on the Ravens Squad show on Monday, and he talked about how when you're a rookie, you want to come into training camp and really make a name for yourself. And Emory Jones is not going to have that opportunity here. And maybe we'll get more specifics on it from John Harbaugh when he talks to the media once training camp picks up and begins. I'm not sure. But for now, we do know Emory Jones is on the NFI list, and it's not going to be ready for the start of training camp, obviously, based off of that. So coming up in the second part of the show, we'll get into Roquan Smith getting called out by an anonymous NFL assistant. So stay tuned. A lot coming up on the show. First, the show is brought to you by FanDuel. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action. Why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. And I've been using FanDuel to track my favorite matchups, and the apps keep it fresh with new daily promotions and fun ways to bet. Whether I'm placing a same-game parlay Watching it at Ryan's in the ninth inning, FanDuel makes it feel like I'm a part of the action. And now this being Locked On Ravens, I am an Orioles guy. The Orioles World Series odds, if you want to get a little spicy on Baltimore right now, I know, look, it has not been a good season for them. They're plus 30,000 to win the World Series over on FanDuel. So, hey, it's there for you if you want to take a chance on it. But if you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. Again, open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. Back here on Locked On Ravens, Kevin Oestreicher still here with you on this Thursday. Again, appreciate everybody for being here, making Locked On Ravens a part of your day and your first listen each and every single day. We just talked about the Emory Jones Jr. injury update. He's going on the NFI, or he's on the NFI with his labrum injury. So who knows if he'll play this season. I think that's the next question. But certainly we already knew, John Harbaugh said it, that he wasn't going to be ready for training camp. And now we officially get that with the NFI designation. But let's move on and talk about Roquan Smith getting called out. And like I mentioned at the top of the show, I want to get this off my chest first. I did it a little bit when, we talked about some of these other anonymous rankings here. Jeremy Fowler releases, every position. It's a ranking system. Now, it's not Jeremy Fowler making the rankings. It's NFL coaches, executives, and scouts. Jeremy Fowler compiles their answers, puts them all in a list, and releases them day by day. Off-ball linebackers was a couple of days ago, and Roquan Smith got called out by an NFL defensive assistant that said that he believes Roquan Smith can elevate his game by improving his conditioning. And apparently 2 of Smith's votes by the scouts, coaches, and executives were at number 10. And this assistant said, I think he needs to get in better shape. Looks a little sluggish at times. So before we get into the actual part of what the assistant said, the anonymous factor in these polls is ridiculous. And it's not just this poll. It's every time, an executive just doesn't put his name on something, or a coach doesn't put his name. Say it with your chest. Like, if you mean it, put your name on it. Why don't people put their names on it? Because they're scared. Because they are scared. It's unbelievable, and it's dumb in my opinion, and it's cowardly in my opinion. If you're gonna say something, put your name on it. Don't be afraid. Don't run from it. You said it. Go put your name on it. Like, I understand that, it has to be anonymous so that it doesn't harm my team or come back to bite me or no. If you mean it, then put your name on it. All right, don't run from it. You mean it, so why not say it with their name? It's a whole conversation we could have about that, but we're here to talk about Roquan Smith, not an anonymous NFL defensive assistant. So the conversation about Roquan, about needing to get in better shape and looking sluggish, it's not that I disagree with it. The thing that makes me mad is that it's anonymous, but the actual statement here, I don't think it's wrong completely. I think that it got better for Roquan last year as the season went on, but you could certainly tell that Roquan was a little big, and not in a good way, last year at the beginning there. And there were a lot of factors, right? I mean, early on in the season, Roquan had a lot more on his plate. And once the Ravens made their defensive changes, I think he got freed up and was able to just kind of play ball a lot more freely instead of having to worry about every single little thing. And his responsibilities were kind of delegated out, which I think was nice, where you had Kyle Hamilton as a communicator on the back end and a lot of that stuff, which helped Roquan out. Roquan was doing a lot of jobs. But at the same time, Roquan was slow and sluggish like he did. I'm not going to deny that. And Roquan's awesome. He was rated number 2 on this list for a reason. Him and Fred Warner, to me, are the 2 best inside linebackers in the league. And for good reason. Both of them are stars. And we saw, Roquan, when he is in the best shape of his life, he's a dominant physical force who is awesome in the run game, awesome as a blitzer, and awesome in pass coverage. He can do it all for them. But I think the example that I go back to for Roquan in particular is that week 1 game against the Chiefs, where, and it wasn't just Roquan, by the way, Malik Harrison getting torched. All these guys are getting torched. But Roquan, in that game, the Chiefs were over and over and over again going to the slot, and the linebackers getting matched up on those guys, and it'd just be slant after slant after slant, inside over the middle of the field, and the Ravens really couldn't do anything to stop it. It was just over and over and over again. Roquan, Malik Harrison, Trenton Simpson, like everybody was taking turns getting cooked in that game. And you could certainly tell the build for Roquan, like he was big. He had a bigger body. And usually when you say that, it's like, oh, he's adding on all this muscle and like he's looking good, looking shit. No, I mean, it wasn't in a good way. And I think, again, it got better as the year went on. And sometimes you do have to play your way into shape. Like some guys do. It just, you see it all across sports, not just football, all sports. Some guys just play their way into shape. I think we kind of saw that from Roquan last season. But, they really couldn't afford him coming into training camp like that. And I think even in training camp, people saw it like, man, Roquan, something looks different here. And you could see that translate to his play on the field. Now, he still finished. I mean, he was awesome to end the season. I mean, he was great last year for Baltimore. It wasn't like his best statistical season or anything along those lines, but it was good enough for Baltimore. And what he was able to do was fine for them. Like he helped them win games, especially in the latter part of the season. He had a combined 154 tackles, which is, kind of right on par with what his production is. He was also able to throw together 1.5 sacks, which, his sack numbers have declined since he's come to Baltimore. He hasn't really been a sack artist, but he, again, made the Pro Bowl, All Pro. Like he had a good year. But I just think that it goes beyond the box score with some of the first half stuff we saw. Now, I thought Roquan bounced back great in the second half of the season, as I've been saying. But if he comes into training camp again, like he did last season, well, they can't afford it again. And they can afford it less this year because of the start. Like the Ravens had a tough start with Kansas City and Dallas and Buffalo in those first 4 games. Cincinnati was their week 5 game. Like, yeah, it was tough, right? Well, this year you have 5 of 6 division winners coming to town in the first 6 weeks. Well, you're going there. They're coming to Baltimore. It's on your schedule. 5 of your first 6 games are against division of winners from last season. That is really tough. The only quote unquote break you get, and you really don't have any breaks in the NFL. These are professional football players, is the Cleveland Browns in your home opener in week 2. So you have to have everybody in tip-top shape, everybody in the right mindset to help you win football games. And I just think for Roquan, the mindset was there. I'm never going to question Roquan and his mindset and his leadership. And, the play is almost always there. But I think for a lot of people, you saw kind of the sluggishness of him in certain spots. And it was a lot of different things, right? I mentioned all the stuff on his plate. Certainly, I don't think the shape he was in helped. So I'm expecting Roquan to come in pretty good shape to training camp this year to kind of send a message here. And I'll be pumped to see it if it does happen. So Roquan's still awesome. He was one of my favorite deadline deals they've made ever. Like Roquan is that guy. I wanted him back in that 2018 draft. Obviously, the Ravens weren't picking high enough to take him. Like Roquan is my guy, and I think he's awesome. But, it's my job on the show to come on here and say, hey, we're going to praise guys when they deserve it. We're going to criticize guys when they deserve it too. And I'm praising Roquan for how he bounced back from a slow first half of the year, right? He did an awesome job getting back to the Roquan Smith that we all know and love here in Baltimore. But the reason he had to bounce back was because in that first half, he was exhibiting signs of, oh man, well, where's the Roquan we know? Where is that guy? And we found him, but it was a journey to kind of get to that point. So Roquan, he's still he's the heartbeat of the Ravens defense. Like he is the heart and soul of that defense with his leadership, his passion, and everything and he leaves it all on the field as well. Like he's a guy that leads by example with his play. But I think coming into training camp is going to be a big thing for Roquan. I'm going to be keeping my eye on how he looks, and we'll see how that all unfolds. But coming up in the final part of the show, we'll talk about the Locked On NFL Top 100 players, the whole network, the NFL side, put together our list. So be sure to stay tuned. A lot coming up on the show. Back on Locked On Ravens, Kevin Oestreicher is still here with you, rounding out the show here on Thursday. Appreciate you tuning in today. Be sure to tune in later tonight as well. I mentioned the Locked On Ravens squad show. It's our second week of doing it. So, of course, this is the main Locked On Ravens show, Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. Eastern time. This is episode 1,554 consecutively. Been doing this for a while. We're not going anywhere. We have added on, though, to the Locked On Ravens media empire, as I call it, with the Ravens squad show, which is live at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time on Mondays and Thursdays. It's myself, Sam Njoku, and former Ravens receiver and Super Bowl champion Qadry Ismail. So, we'll go over a little bit more from the top 100 list. We'll talk about some other opinions and getting ready for training camp and the whole 9 yards. It's awesome to be able to interact with everybody in the chat as well. So be sure you tune into that. And also hit the like and subscribe button in video form and audio form. Tell a friend, tell a family member if they want some daily Ravens coverage. Be sure to tell them to come over our way on Locked On Ravens. But let's get into this top 100 list. This was really fun to do. A lot of, we've seen a lot of rankings, right? A lot of lists, a lot of top 10s, top 100s. This is ranking season. This is peak off-season ranking time. And so the NFL channel here over on Locked On NFL channel, we put together our top 100 list. And so everybody voted. We got a list of players. We voted literally 1 through 100 on these guys. And I'll just read off the list going from 100 to 1, and then we'll react to it. And so 91 through 100, you got Budda Baker, Danielle Hunter, Derrick Brown, Devontae Adams, Jesse Bates, Tariq Woolen, Bradley Chubb, Dak Prescott, Malik Neighbors, and Andrew Thomas. Moving to numbers 81 through 90, Jonathan Grenard, Roquan Smith coming in at 89, Drake London, Derwin James, Leonard Williams, Travis Kelce, Denzel Ward, Chris Olave, Jared Goff, Christian Benford. Then we got 71 through 80. It is Antoine Winfield, Garrett Wilson, Terry McLaurin, Bobby Wagner, Brandon Aubrey, J.C. Horn, Xavier McKinney, Brian Burns, Khalil Mack, and Elgton Jenkins. Then you have 61 through 70, which is Quinn Miners, Mike Evans, Jordan Love, Travis Hunter, Will Anderson, Christian Gonzalez, Trey McBride, Rashawn Slater, Quentin Williams, and Nico Collins. 51 through 60, Zach Bond, Devon Witherspoon, CJ Stroud, Jared Verse, Quentin Nelson, Jeffrey Simmons, Joe Tooney, Christian Darrisaw, Chris Lindstrom, and Trent McDuffie. So far, only one Raven through the back half of this list. 41 through 50, Travarius Ward, Alvin Kamara, Calais Campbell, Baker Mayfield, Jalen Hurts, Kirby Joseph, Christian McCaffrey, Puka Nacua, Cam Hayward, and Trent Williams. 40 through 31, Matthew Stafford, Justin Herbert, Brock Bowers, Jahmyr Gibbs, Laramie Tunsil, Jalen Carter, Bijan Robinson, Dexter Lawrence, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jaden Daniels. So still only one Raven. 21 through 30, Aiden Hutchinson, Jordan Mailata, Sauce Gardner, Creed Humphrey, Kyle Hamilton. Here's a Raven, 26 on the list. Tyreek Hill, Fred Warner, Derek Stingley, George Kittle, and Tristan Wirfs. 11 through 20, Trey Hendrickson, CeeDee Lamb, Lane Johnson, Nick Bosa, A.J. Brown, Max Crosby, Derrick Henry, it's number 14, Penei Sewell, Chris Jones, and T.J. Watt. And then 1 through 10, I guess, yeah, I've been reading these in reverse order. But anyway, 10 through 1, Saquon Barkley, Patrick Surtain, Micah Parsons, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Joe Burrow, Myles Garrett. In the top 3 through 1, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson is your number 1 player in the Locked On NFL Top 100 players. I'm glad that we were able to give Lamar Jackson his spotlight here. He absolutely deserves it. He has not had the recognition for his 2024 season that he has deserved. We made a video, the network had us each submit a video, or at least some of the shows submit a video for their, just one star player. Obviously the one that I did was for Lamar Jackson. And I had said that, look, Mahomes has the rings. Allen got the MVP last season, but, Lamar Jackson is the best player in the league right now. And to me, it's not really close. You can make arguments for all these guys. I think the big four with Jackson, Allen, Mahomes, and Burrow, they're all awesome. They're all elite quarterbacks. But with Lamar, some of the records and there are plenty of them that he broke, but he was the first quarterback in NFL history, first player in NFL history to have over 4,000 passing yards and over 900 rushing yards in the same season. He had an 8.6 touchdown percentage, which put him at number 6 all time since the NFL completed the merger back in 1970. That's not even his best touchdown percentage season. Back in 2019, that was his best. He's a historic player. And it is 2024 season. His 2024 season was better than his MVP season last year. It was the best season of his career. 41 touchdowns through the air compared to just 4 interceptions. The turnovers were low. The touchdowns were high. He was doing it efficiently. I mean, everything lined up for Lamar. And while, look, he had tough competition for that MVP, obviously Allen won it, but, Joe Burrow had a great year. It was only one less win for Lamar than the Bills had, right? They missed out on that by literally one game. So I'm like, yes, Josh had the advantage there, but I'm not counting out Lamar. Big strength of schedule advantage, DVOA, et cetera. Like all this stuff was in favor of Lamar Jackson. And I'm glad I could, and it was not just me. I mean, again, a lot of my peers here on the network voted on these lists, and I'm glad that Lamar got his recognition. So 4 Ravens on the list total. Lamar Jackson at 1, Derrick Henry at 14, Kyle Hamilton at 26, and Roquan Smith at 89. Definitely some snubs here for me, though. I think more Ravens deserved to make it. Tyler Linderbaum certainly deserved to make this list. He's one of the elite players in this league. I think he should most definitely be on there. Nnamdi Madubuike, I think, certainly deserved a spot maybe in the 80s, 90s, right around there. You could definitely make an argument for Ronnie Stanley. I think Ronnie is awesome. This might be a hot take. I think Mark Andrews, you maybe could have slid him in there, but I think with the whole Buffalo thing, he wasn't going to make the list. I don't think he was. Outside of that, maybe you could make a small argument for Zay Flowers. It's possible, could have been Zay, but outside of that, I don't think I'm missing anybody. I think everybody I am missing someone. Sorry. I apologize to Mr. Marlon Humphrey. He absolutely should be on this list. My bad, Marlon. Marlon absolutely should be on this list as well. He had a great year. He had an incredible 2024. And I get that, he's had, when his seasons are rough, they're rough. But when they're not rough, they're really good. They're really good. So honestly, I was a little shocked. I'm shocked I forgot him, first of all. But I didn't forget him at the end of the day. We got him on here. Marlon Humphrey, to me, honestly, might be the biggest snub outside of Tyler Linderbaum, who did not make this list whatsoever. Other ones that I was shocked about, just about guys that were on the list. Travis Hunter being on the list at all is kind of shocking to me. I say it on Locked On Ravens with Malaki Starks. Like, I'm not giving, I think Malaki, and I know Malaki is going to be a great player, but we can't give him credit for doing anything at the NFL level when he hasn't done anything at the NFL level. Like, Travis Hunter is unique. He is polarizing. He also has not played a snap. So, you're putting him ahead of guys like Roquan from a Ravens perspective. Also, shout out to Calais Campbell for getting, where was he at? He was in the top 50, wasn't he? He was in the top 50. He was 48. Man, I'll tell you. Man, I mean, Calais is my guy. Obviously, on the field, he's a great player. Off the field, he's an even better person. Getting in the top 50, though, with a lot of good players behind him, including Roquan Smith from a Ravens perspective, it was a little shocking. I expect him to have a good year in Arizona to kind of round out his career, but hey, shout out to Calais Campbell. I'm just glad that we were able to get Lamar Jackson the number 1 spot here. That to me it's a big deal. The interesting thing with these lists is, like, what are they judged on? Every ranking list has its own set of criteria, but, my opinion of it is, well, it is supposed to be 2024. And Lamar Jackson had the best 2024 out of all of these players. It's just true. And our list had Mahomes at number 2. I don't really even agree with that. Like, I would have Mahomes at 4 here. It'd be Lamar, Allen, Burrow, Mahomes is my top 4. I think that's the order of guys who had the best seasons, right? Chiefs were 15-1 when Mahomes played, but wins for quarterbacks, it's quarterbacks are not they don't get credit for wins in my book. Like, it's not quarterbacks and wins. They correlate, but they don't at the same time. Wins aren't a quarterback stat, in my opinion. They're a team stat, but, quarterbacks, I guess, do get credit for them. But it's not like Lamar won 9 games like Joe Burrow did. He won. The Ravens were 12-5. The Bills were 13-4. Like, it's not that big of a difference. Now, I get that the Chiefs won a lot of these games, but Mahomes, from a stats perspective, he didn't have a great year. So I'm not complaining. Lamar's at 1, but the list for me would have been a little bit different. But that's all I have for you here today on Locked On Ravens. Thank you so much for tuning in to the show. Again, I'll be right back here tonight with the Locked On Ravens Squad show at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. So be sure to check that out live on YouTube. And if you can't do that, we'll have it, of course, available for playback both in video form and audio form after the fact. So be sure on the way out, hit that like and subscribe button, and follow along in both video form and audio form. And I'll see you right back here later tonight for the Locked On Ravens Squad Show and tomorrow for Locked On Ravens.